Om Om Ganganapataye Namaha Om Gangarabhyo Namaha Om Aim Saraswatyay Namaha Om Ganana Tva Ganapatigam Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamashravastramam Jyeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashranmannoti Visida Sadhanam Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha Om Namo Bhagavate Shivananda Om Namo Bhagavate Vishnudevananda. Om, good evening. Happy New Year. I pray from the bottom of my heart that your life be filled with numerous blessings of all kinds. For one, that everyone should be healthy. Two, they should have financial stability too. Of course, inspiration, some friendship, some loves, and real friendships. Um, I pray that you have a deep study of of spirituality, meditation, and also the many wonderful insights um, be born from your hard work and from your examination of the mind. I like to think in the way because the insights are great value in life, and we need them, and you can share them with others. So it's a special time. There's some sadness going back, of course. Ever since this COVID came and so many things happened in the world, and there's always a sadness that kind of brews underneath the possibilities that life brings. But the truth is that we must also remember of the life itself and all the opportunities that are in it. So we all intuitively feel that the arrival of the new year is a very special time, and this is known all over the world. Of course, we hope they will do a better turn. They will be healthier. They will be more, diligent in our practice. But they also, we hope they will have more mental peace, more mental strength, like that. Swami Shivananda always says that this loving Lord is incredibly gracious. The Lord, the Ishvara that is behind the whole creation, that takes care of everyone, including a little mosquito and a frog between two strata of the rocks, and a human being, and everybody. He, being so gracious and kind, every year he gives us another priceless lift. Sorry, another priceless gift, which is the New Year, right? Which Swami Shivananda compares to a pure or clear crystal, right? Or like a pure running brook. It's like so afresh. It's like a newborn baby. Something is like the whole life of the whole creation is like within it. So a new year is filled with infinite opportunities for oneself transformation. But usually, what we do in our practice is, as one year is, ending, and another one is about to begin, we naturally, state our wishes. We make wishes for ourselves and also for others, for families. For the whole world. So it is a custom to me to embrace, to wish everybody a new year, and we don't take this lightly because everything we say has some consequence or an effect on people. For example, if you say a Happy New Year, it's like a blessing. And if it comes from the depth of your heart, it may bring some greater hope and possibility in that person's life than before. And even the laymen do that. They send the cards. When you have a card, you look at it, there's an energy of a blessing in it. So everything is magic. And if we look at the new year like this, the arrival of the new year in this way, we're going to gain so much more from the year rather than just observing the passing of time and kind of remembering some good things that we had, and which is typical how people look at the time. So before we, of course, think of the new year, we tend to spend a moment considering the year that is on the way out. So usually this kind of a meditation would be done um, on the year on the 31st of December. And then what we do, we go back through what we lived and remember certain events, not everything, some good, some maybe not so good. And then we should think about a year as being a living being. A year is not purely time passing, but it is filled with life, with some consciousness and like that. So in the Kabbalah teaching, a year is considered to be a living being. And being a living being, you can actually speak to it. You can say, you can uh, ask the year to remember you. You can, because the year is like a camera, and everything is registered in it, all your actions, all your wishes, your feelings and thoughts. And so on the last day of the year, sorry, this whatever the messages that we give to the year, along with all the things that we recorded about our performance and the good and bad moments, our feelings and our hopes, all of that is reported to the Lords of Destiny. They are Lords of Destiny in Hindu teachings, and that will connect you to the new year. So some of our hopes and our prayers and everything are heard, and therefore those things that we are aspiring for, they're connecting us to the new year, and hopefully we have a continuation in the same direction. I'm saying hopefully because we cannot always expect that everything is going to be according to our wishes and perfect. So do not fail to acknowledge the old year, and before leaving it behind. And then as the new year comes, you can project, just like what we do, all our thoughts and hopes of a world peace, inner peace, and everything else. And then we come to the idea of a new beginning. This is something that I contemplate almost every day. It is something that keeps me sort of alert, and it keeps me also excited about things, and it gives me sometimes solace, because I know it's very hard to change one's own nature, and some habits are so stubborn that if we start to believe that there are new beginnings all the way throughout our day, we're going to have a very different approach to that. So, as the Yoga Vasishta says, there is no higher power than the right action in the present moment. Like, so what is more powerful than doing the right thing in the present, not in the future? We want to do it now. So, now is the big the now. I have to now borrow some of the teachings of James Allen. Now is the reality in which time is contained, right? In fact, he says it is greater than the time itself. Why? Because the essential nature of ours can only be experienced in the now. And from the absolute point of view, there is no time. There's no past, there's no future, there's only infinite now. So we take this kind of a concept, you know, and so we think of this present moment as eternally potent and eternally, basically substantial. So the past and the future are always problematic, because as humans, we're obsessed with either or both of them. We tend to go into our past, frequently, either to revel in some good experiences and some memories, or to revel in some kind of a guilt, or something to be like rehearsing again and again, running the programs. So, we already know from the work with traumas and different things that that's what they really are. They're like a working of the past and going on and on and on and on. Similarly with future, often the future in human life may sometimes contain some seeds of hope and things, but often it has also the problem is worries and fears, because it's just human. It's humane, so to say, is to not live in the present. It's not to understand the power of the now. So this is a very interesting problem. So as this wonderful gentleman will say, to act and accomplish now, to not act and accomplish now is to not not to act and accomplish at all. So what we need to do is to put away regrets and guilt and this and that, and just throw ourselves into the work of the now. So no matter what we start, you want to start a business, you want to start a partnership, a relationship, or anything like this, how you begin it will greatly affect your experience and and your level of success or completion. This is was it's very often known in many realms. We whatever we want to start, like music, learning music or a language or something, we should always try to start in the right way, because we as we learn things, we lay some scars, the impressions of something, and if we do it in the first way incorrectly, then we have a more of a tendency to learn that in an incorrect way, and then we have to try to erase it. So for one, I want to share this concept that my guru used to always talk about, and this is the evolution versus revolution. I think it's very easy to be caught up in the idea of an instant transformation or change. Excuse me. I'm just never nobody calls me only during the talk. So the idea is that many people are caught up in this wish to be transformed quickly, so they have not really patience for slow work. And this is the key reason why many people who start the new year with resolutions and wanting to do many things, they don't really succeed because they don't really understand the laws of the mind. So the objective of the evolution is something, as we know, takes slowly, step by step. And the revolution is something that always has like it always backfires. And suppose you want to change your day, your life, and you say, I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to do this for 1 hour and 2 hours, and you really never done it before. You know what's going to happen under the pressure of intensity of a new practice. The willpower will collapse and we will fail. So, as Swamiji used to say, the way we change is like the way you change a cotton cloth into a silken cloth. It is one thread at a time. It's one action at a time, one thought at a time, one word at a time. And yes, it would be nice if you dip the whole cloth into something and you get a silken cloth out of cotton, or vice versa. That's not how it works. That's not how even the humanity works on a greater scale. And so we need to remember that if I want to become a new person in some ways, how do I do it? And how frequently do I have to, repeat a certain type of conduct or practice or whatever? And we need to allow for the time to work it. So our human nature is changed really very slowly. And this is why I feel many people make a mistake, because they do not believe in a sustained effort that goes on for a long time, but they like to see quick results. And I'm a person who worked always with small numbers. I used to always start with 5 minutes of this and try to sustain it for a long time, rather than starting something, which I didn't before, of course. Let's do today an hour of this practice, and then I try to keep it for 7 days, and then I have a complete disappointment by the beginning of the next week. So I don't like that. I think it's very important that you have a stability and continuity in pursuing the changes you want to make. Okay, and they can be small, and they could be just lovely like that, and they may look like baby steps from another perspective, but from your perspective, it will be very, very important to do it. So people make resolutions during these times, and even in our ashrams, we used to give always a resolution sheet to students, and they will take it. Normally the way the practice goes, for those people who keep a spiritual diary, I don't know if any one of you does, it would be a very useful practice. So when you keep a spiritual diary, you want to keep it in a way that you're able to calculate your achievements in one column at the end of the week. So if you, let's say, put Monday, I woke up at 6 o'clock, and Tuesday I woke up at 7, and let's say your ideal is to wake up at 6, you put how many times you woke up that week. So that would be, let's say, 4 times, which is very good. And so for many practices that can be calculated like this, it would be good to have in the last column after Sunday, you have all of your results. And I know it may be overwhelming for some people to do that. And often, most of the people that I taught this, they had a huge resistance to doing it. I don't know why. But I was always excited to monitor my spiritual practice. I mean, of course, sometimes, even when I was younger, I was self-competitive and I was not happy with what I was seeing sometimes. And the other times I was too excited and too proud of something, then I will fail next week. So I had all these ups and downs. But I found that keeping the spiritual diary was a very helpful thing. And then I would enter the figures week by week, which I think I've shown you this before. If you like, I will show it to you later on. And so I have, for all the years, for over 40 years, I have my figures in the primary sadhanas that I do. So if it's meditation, asana, japa, certain things, I can tell you how it was 30 years ago and how it's now. And many of the practices that used to be very strong in, they collapsed. And many of the things that I was very weak in, they went up. And sometimes certain things, such as asanas, may change if you have a health condition, or, various things can happen. But for one, I always found this keeping the spiritual diary a very transformative, very inspirational. I was kind of created to find out the tricks, how to overcome the tricks of my mind to increase some practice. For example, if I found that my japa of practice of mantra was very minimal this week, then on Sunday itself, I will do 20 malas. And this way, I will competitively beat my last year's numbers. And just it's actually every practice counts, right? It will be somewhere recorded in your mind. It will help you along the way, and you're going to feel wonderful. And on the basis of this kind of a spiritual diary, I have a very, many of you know, but I have a very elaborate system of monitoring my practices. And the reason I do this because on the basis of it, I can plan my next year's, efforts. I'm more realistic about where I'm going and what I'm trying to achieve. But I have to say that the spiritual diary is something that's kept in ashrams and places like that, not by all people anymore. People become lazy. You see, you have to remember that in your life, you are at the mercy of your own mind. If you understand what it means, then you're really honest. I think we do not know what it means, mercy, under the mercy over our mind. Meaning that there is tamas, there is rajas, there are problems that the mind can create in an instant, and because of the prevalence of tamas and rajas and because of the only some sattva there, you have no you don't have the means of increasing the sattva guna. You don't have the means of sustaining your moods in the right manner. You don't have the means to fight off the effect of the world or the maya on your mind. So that's normally done by the presence of a guru or a senior acharya who is there for you, who is there to also push you when you need to you need a push. So living in a spiritual environment does not necessarily necessitate like an elaborate spiritual diary, still does. However, when you're out in the world, you need some help. I need some help. I don't want to be just left to my mind because, you give your mind like opportunity to become lazy, it will take it, you know? If you give your mind an opportunity to watch a video, like sometimes I'm shocked how much time this Instagram can just swallow because it's everything is interesting, right? The videos, the people posting stuff, so much more even in the Facebook. And then you realize, oh my God, my 20 minutes is gone, my 30 minutes is gone. And then, now the mind will try to either justify it, because if you say I wasted 30 minutes, ideally you should not waste it tomorrow or for the next week at all. But it's quite likely that you will say, oh, I wasted it today. So then you feel a little better about your own observation and only to waste the same amount of time next day because it's highly addictive, this thing. I mean, I'm sure you understand it. Because of the addictive nature of life itself, that are stimulating this tamasic and rajasic seeds to grow. This is why the spiritual diary is so important. I hope that some of you will take the spiritual diary to heart and you can work with me. I will be very happy to guide you in this and set up your own diary with your own goals and things. And then what you will need to do is you send it to me, a copy of the diary every week. Then you will grow. If you don't show your diary to anyone, you could quite happily, you can put zeros and you're fine about this, although you won't be fine, I have to say. You see, sometimes I show my students my own diary and I feel embarrassed that some numbers are really high that shouldn't be there, and some are really low, they also shouldn't be there. But here I am, I'm a teacher, I have to show them how I do it, and I don't want to hide the figures. So it's a kind of interesting situation. Because I have to show it to somebody, I am willing to actually improve my own practice. Do you see what I mean? So anyway, the resolutions that we make around this time are they're a little bit like seeds, right? They're not meant to like a magic wand transform you into another person. They're really like there to support you in your practice, and they're the seeds, and the seeds can grow. And obviously you cannot force any growth, even of yourself. You can only make one small step at a time. And that is the principle that I strongly believe in. The reason why people fail in pursuing even their own resolutions, however much they make them after the first January 1st and onwards, is because they often set up unreasonable goals. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. All of that in a month. And you can do all of these things, but it may take a little longer time. So an equivalent is like this. You're trying to lift 200 pounds and you only were working with the 5 pound weights, right? So like then you collapse under the weight of it. So we don't want that. Another problem is that we generally don't know how the mind actually operates. There's a lot of resistance in the mind that stems from past nature and past habits and everything. So that needs to be watched. Another reason why these resolutions also don't fail don't last exactly is because we live in an instant society, right? We have no time to wait. We have no patience. So this is also reflected in the way how we want certain resolutions to become our realities. So there is a story of, which is a true story, how the bamboo is grown, right? So what normally you do, you put the seed of bamboo in the soil, and then you have to water it and fertilize the seed, and that's exactly the first year what you do, and nothing happens. You put the water, you fertilize the seed, there's no change. You don't see anything. You continue for the second year. Bamboo is a very special type of plant, and it's still nothing happens. And it is not until sometime during the third year that something begins to happen, and in approximately 6 weeks, the bamboo seed shoots up and it becomes a tree, and it becomes almost 90 feet or 30 meters high. Can you believe it? So the question is, did the tree grow 90 feet in 6 weeks, or did it grow in 3 years? The answer is in 3 years, right? Because if it wasn't for all that watering and fertilizing, there would be no bamboo tree. So this is similar how our nature is. We are like a bamboos, maybe more problematic than bamboos in that sense. So all steps must be done, right? And when we don't see immediate results, we have to keep on striving and making the same effort. So another thing is to remember is that I like to think of this modern kind of new age concept, which is called the power of choice, right? But we're rarely aware of the power of choice because we use it not so much or very little on a daily basis. And the power of choice is something that needs to be used and exercised. We don't do it, of course, enough. Why? Because we forget. Here's the power of Maya, or make you forget that there is a choice in every action or what. So what happens? We fall into the old habits. So what we needs to be done, uh, a new training would be to learn to pause before you do something, before you say something, and before you want to think of something. You have to think, how am I going to think about these things? This is like another training in itself. So the pausing will provide you with that freedom of choice, so to say. Of course, sometimes the choice doesn't feel like it's a choice because there's an established old habit that is pushing forward, and you want to make a new, you want to give a new direction to your thoughts or your actions, and there could be a conflict. So anyway, you can always begin something new like this if you contemplate that your day is consists of infinite number of present moments. Okay, so you can have a bad day, right? For most of the time, like 6 hours, not good news, everything's falling apart, and you say, "Aha, I have a new beginning, and I have a choice here." So if you can remember this, you contemplate every one of these moments as a new beginning, you will see that you can always begin something anew, afresh, however feeble it might be at first. The seed of a bamboo is also not very powerful in the beginning, right? It's a tiny. Anything can eat it, anything can, stop it from growing, but nevertheless, we can do it. So these choices I like to think about, okay, what is the best way to think? What is the best way to act? So that can come down to all of the things that we do, from eating, from exercising, talking to others and everything. So one thing I also contemplate about this because as spiritual people, we also run into all kinds of battles with our mind. See, many people say, okay, spiritual life, spiritual science, after all, is an amazing thing. It's extraordinary, it provides the solutions to every problem. That's kind of how the books say, that's how the teachers say, you know. Well, what is the problem? The only problem with most of us is somehow we're unclear in our mind, as if we're dazed in sort of some way as to how to proceed with this work. Here's another problem. Many people are mixed. They follow too many traditions, too many gurus, too many teachers, too many everything, right? So they sometimes don't know. They scratch their head. What should I do now? I know this practice, that practice, and all that. Just collecting practices doesn't make you a practitioner. So you need to figure out, what exactly makes sense to practice from now on for a long time. Sometimes, of course, people have many different practices from different teachers, but I will say one thing: for all problems in life, simplicity and uniformity is the best answer. It is correct. You have to have courage to decide to follow one path. I know that. We live in America. We like, choices. We don't like that teacher, we go somewhere else. Or we like this guy, but I also like this guy, and I also like that guy. And I know each one of us is on a Zoom, 20 hours a week, various things we're following. It's okay. But I say simplicity is the best thing. Simplify your language, simplify your books, get rid of the mixed ideas and everything. I personally would love to study some more Christianity. I love some Buddhism, but I have no time. If I start doing that, I'm lost. And for what reason? You know, sometimes I think, oh, I should read the Old Testament. Sometimes I think like this. You know, you could spend all your 30 incarnations studying all of this and not come even an inch closer to the truth. You will only get inspiration. Where really the hardest fact of spiritual life is to practice, and to continuously repeat what we call abhyasa, again and again what you've been doing, like you've been drawn in by your karma in spiritual world, whatever it is. You see simplicity, this is the key even to the solutions of the modern world, pollution. What is the problem? There's no simplicity. Technology is everything but simplicity, right? Pollution of the world is all but simplicity. Who needs genetically modified foods? Today I saw something. Somebody bought cookies from the Whole Foods, and I discovered in the ingredients, and Annapurna will appreciate that, they were saying a bioengineered thing. They didn't say what it was. It contained a bioengineered thing. And now then I went on the Google, and I figured out the bioengineered is another word for genetically modified. How cute that is. So they just want to confuse you. And why would the Whole Foods, which sells the kind of good food and organic food, will be actually putting food out that has these biodynamic things? And this is not the first time I discovered them. So we're living in a complex world because the people are so confused. It's not that the people live in a complex world because they're clear. Wherever you go to indigenous places, you go someplace, the simplicity is what really, really shines through. Think about the relationships with you and somebody else. When you're simple, that's the best, right? You're just yourself. You don't need artificiality or any kind of thing. If you have indigestion, what do? You take simple food. You don't take complex food, right? So same is for spiritual world. Sometimes of course we make excuses for not practicing things. We say, I don't have time, but generally we have time if somebody invites us to have a hot chocolate or have a nice coffee or go to a party, we have time. You see, so this is just nothing to say, no, nobody to blame. It's just our minds are like that. So unfortunately, some people say if I add another practice to my day, it's going to be too much and I'm going to collapse. I don't know how to do all of that. So I have to say, life is what you make it. And if some people are so caught up in their lives and their professional lives and their responsibilities, it is because inwardly they did not know how to free themselves. And we all live through this problem. And here the past lifetimes play a great role, because if you've sown seeds in the past lifetimes, it becomes easy in this lifetime. So what you do now, since we all have a problem with it, we have to start to free up our time with some risk, that we may not enjoy everything like we used to. We don't need to be in all places. We don't need to be in all bars and places and enjoyment and all of that. So this is kind of what we need to remember. Try to make time for sadhana and for my Zoom talks here and there if you can. It's wonderful. And then, of course, protect yourself from all this overload of bad news and stuff like this. I think that we need to do that. So next thing we're going to discuss now the examination of our year. So what we do, we look back at our year just briefly because we want to make some plans for the next year, but we need to do this with some correct examination of the previous year. So, of course, this year could be a quantum leap year. You could do a lot of wonderful things. But For one, we need to ask ourselves how our year was and try to go in time. And, uh, first of all, remember this, these are the principles before I go there, sorry. One is this, whatever you want to do next year, for example, imagine that today is your uh, end of the past year. I know it's the 2nd of January, but it's okay. So the principle is this one, whatever you want to do in the next year, do it this year. Okay. So let's say we're going down into the more minute periods of time. Whatever you want to do this week, do it today. And whatever you want to do it today, do it now or as close to the now as you can. This is how you transform your life. If you want to do asana starting from tomorrow, you do today 1 minute and you feel very good about that. If you want to start meditating tomorrow, you do it today. So this way you kind of create a little bit of kind of a connection and more hope. So, as I said, do not try and make any abrupt changes because, most importantly, as I said, people don't believe in the power of small but consistent changes, and that's unfortunate. So, you can also, as a little exercise, write on a piece of paper and read it aloud every day. Now is the only reality, the first sentence, right? Like that. Past and future are only dreams. All things are now, all power, all possibility, all action is now. So this is kind of, you can even repeat it as a little mantra. It's very, very useful. Now, so basically, as I said, you look at the past year and you just examine some of your successes, some of your failures, and see which way you would like to grow in the next year. And on the basis of that, you create your plan. I'll come back to it also. But some ideas are now coming to my mind, like it would be really nice. First of all, try to examine the idea of wasted time. I know that we think we're spiritual people, we don't waste our time, but maybe we do. So you have to find the areas where what is your time is wasted on. Ideally, we should try to abandon all useless activities one by one. If you want to live one true, dynamic, powerful life, you have to completely abandon uselessness, like being distracted by many things. And I know this is not possible to do immediately, so you just do by reducing bit by bit. Another important principle is to try to always have an independent thinking. I mentioned this again and again. Buddha lived, what, 2,000 years ago, maybe more. He gave us wonderful teachings, but the needs and the conditions of the time that he lived in were different. So we need to examine the same truth, hopefully, in the context of modern times, modern problems and everything. Doesn't matter who the teacher was and how wonderful it is, you have to have somewhat of an independent thought. I think this is where, for example, the church has made a lot of problems and, for itself because they didn't grow with times, you know. They try to still teach the same things. They try to figure out whether the Mother Mary was truly pregnant with Jesus or was she not. Like they try to dig into some stuff that nobody is interested in. We want a practical teaching. And I encourage you to have independent thinking. Also, having independent thinking meaning stay clear from group thinking also as much as possible. So, there's always a tendency to kind of hang on to others, right? For example, if somebody is eating French fries, we want to eat French fries. I'm not recommending them tonight. If somebody is, eating an ice cream, the thought is given to me, let me have an ice cream. So it's like this. We're influenced and often controlled by other people. Then, for example, as the seasons change, when spring comes, you let spring turn your head, right? When the summer comes, our head is spinning in another direction. So all the time we're kind of waiting for something to influence us and have our head spinning in some direction. Because people like emotions, they are stimulated always by one thing or another. So this is something that we have to remember, that independent thinking means to be free from emotional confusion. And that's basically how it is. Now, the next thing we can think of is the stock taking. So this is the past year, and I always think like this. You write things down. Maybe if you don't do it now, I think you should do it now, as if you're starting a new year from tomorrow. Just maybe take some, as I said, look through your past year and see if you can put some ideas down on how you lived and what your experiences were. How did you feel about them? We call that like a stock taking exercise. You can also, if you like, take a gratitude stock exercise in which you don't need to be caught up in any negative memories, for example, but you can say, okay, I lived through this and I'm grateful to you, Lord, for this experience. You can think first of the positive ones. And if you can, also think of something that you lived through that it was unpleasant, but still, it was still a grace. It was still something that to feel grateful for. So, for example, you can write down like what are your 5 biggest challenges that you had? What are your biggest weaknesses that you had? And then you can also think, well, like this, okay, so do I see any ways of reducing these weaknesses or even eradicate them? Then you can think of your like character and ask yourself, okay, so what are my short-term flaws and what are my long-term flaws? You know? And so the idea here is that you create some strategies that you can come up with to deal with them naturally. So then you write the 5 steps. Step 1, this is what I'm going to do to eradicate this flaw. Step 2, step 3, and if possible, take that first step today or tomorrow. Then you can think of your 5 strengths and then again, you can think of strategies how to increase them or perfect them. So all of that self-analysis is very useful. What are your highest ideals and like that? And a little venture into the mind and the investigation will soon prove that we have a lot of good and sort of bad raw material to work with, right? So you're basically doing like this. You're looking at your past. You're also thinking about some past ideals and principles. And then you're kind of weighing your assets versus liabilities, your strong points against weak, like that. Anyway, so you can address any activity in which you would like to see a difference or positive change in the next year. So for me, usually that's food, that's exercise, different things like that. So to address these kind of issues would mean to contemplate them, to reflect on some things that you are doing now and that you may need to change. Okay, so this is kind of what I will do. There's a list of questions that sometimes you can also write something like, for example, what is the one thing that I could do this year to increase my connection with the divine? Oh God. Then you can ask something like this. What is a single's biggest time waster in my life? Is this Instagram? Or is it Facebook? Or is it somebody's presence in my life? Like that. Okay, so what is the most important way that I will try to make this year different from the last year? Obviously, what improvements can I make in my sadhana? That will be there. What is the one single thing that you plan to do this year that will matter 10 years from now? This will matter the most 10 years from now. So that obviously you may be already doing them, but it's just a nice way to kind of examine this by asking these questions. So another thing you can say, what area in my life uh, needs most needs simplifying, or how can I do it? So for myself, I have to say the simplification came from clearing my book load because I have thousands of books, and that means I have thousands of ideas, meaning thousands of projects. And I said, I can't do this, right? So reducing, simplifying, it made me feel a little bit better. I'm still working through it because the one thing is that I still try to, if I send books to somebody, I try to make sure they're in a good condition. So I erase all my little markings in them and things like this. It takes a long time, a bit of a perfectionist in that case. So what habit would you most like to establish this year? It could be just one, you know? Um, so these kind of questions, and perhaps you can say, what is the one thing that you most regret about last year? Now there may come up a big story there. And what will you do about this in this year? Hmm. And in what area does your life needs more growth? And in what area more clearing, like that? And for example, you can have even a question like this. If those who know you the best, who know you best, gave you one piece of advice, what would they say? Would they be right? Sometimes people give us advice, whether we like it or not. And sometimes the advice is right on the spot, but we're rebelling it, right? So if you believe that some of your friends and people that they you know observe something about you and I told you you should try to improve it, you can ask yourself, what would I do about it? Right? It is hard to be governed by other people's observations and ideas and suggestions. So that's basically what I think you should do. And on the basis of this kind of an insight that you get from analyzing your past year, you start to create the resolutions, which you also write them on a piece of paper. And you can have a template for that. And then you can start to ask, okay, I this year I would like to do this. I would like to do that. So this is the something maybe I should now show you. So the key here is the small victories and small improvements as regularly as possible. It's very important not to overload your willpower with too many expectations and too many tasks. Some of us are like that. But again, back to the spiritual diary, that will help you a lot. The spiritual diary will increase your awareness dramatically and the knowledge of your thought processes. Number one. Spiritual diary will help you develop and increase truthfulness about yourself. Remember, how you see yourself is the most important thing. It's not how other people see you. You know yourself from inside out. You know everything about it. So you just have to be compassionate, of course. You cannot be, hitting yourself on the head for every possible mistake you make, even in a single day. That's not the case. But you need to be truthful. And if you're not truthful about what and how your mind works, you're going to be living in denial. And then you're going to be contradicting continuously your effort. You try to move in a good direction, but you're denying that you actually want to change because you think you're okay. So the mind can warp things quite interestingly, but that's just what it is. Then I would say also, you can pay attention to some things that you do, like studying, how you study, what you do, like all these things are there. So I want to show you a little bit. Well, we have 5 more minutes, so I can talk a little bit. Then I will show you briefly the diaries that I believe in. These are my things that I swear by. So many people are expecting that their life situations and environment will change, but remember, you cannot change your environment while leaving your mind unchanged. And perhaps one of the most loving exercises that I think you can try would be what's called the mental fasting. I don't know if you'd like to hear a little bit about that. So the mental fasting is simply a practice where you decide to not let any negative thoughts be in your mind for a certain number of hours or days or week, if possible, like that. So this is called a mental diet. And this is the most important of all factors in your life is your mental processing, mental thing. Just like, the food. So your thoughts are simply the food with which you furnish your mind, and that determines, of course, the whole character and the whole destiny of ours. So the practice would be very wonderful, and if you can take some kind of a plan, basically, um, you can start like this. If you start to change your mind, you will definitely change your conditions. Even the conditions of your body, needless to say, all other conditions. So we are transformed by the renewing our minds. Okay. So now what is this mental diet? It's simply, you try to, of course, um, stay free from negative thoughts. And obviously, there's a practical difficulty in it because, and that practical difficulty arises from the fact that our thoughts are so close to us that we are not able to necessarily step away from them. And that for that, you need a lot more practice than what most people take. So you'd have to train yourself to choose the subject of your thinking at any given time. And also, you should train yourself in choosing the emotional tone or the mood that colors it. Okay. Yes, you can even choose your moods, interesting enough. And that is a perfect practice in itself. Now, the thing would be like this to make up your mind to devote 1 week solely to the task of building a new habit of thought. And during the week, let everything in life be less important as compared to that. So this is the one practice you can say. So for the prescription is like this. For 7 days, you must not allow yourself to dwell for a single moment on any kind of negative thought. Now, as I said, if that's too long, you can do 1 hour a day. But it has to be practice. It needs to be done a certain time, and you need to be very rigid about implementing this. So if you must watch yourself for the duration of that practice, whether it's 1 hour, whether it's 1 day, even to do 1 day, it's kind of quite a remarkable practice. But if you do 1 week, you got a whole diet, a whole fasting done very well. So you would watch yourself in the same way as your cat watches a mouse, okay? And you try not under any pretense to allow your mind to dwell of any thought that is not positive, uh, constructive, or optimistic. Okay. This practice is very strenuous, but it is a wonderful thing to do. And I'm going to start with your permission from tomorrow, because tonight is already late. You're going to pick 1 hour, and then we're going to do just that. We're going to consciously remind ourselves to stay in a positive high vibration, and whatever negative comes, we'll hear it, let it go, whatever it is. We don't need to necessarily close our eyes or ears, it doesn't matter. So this is the secret to do. Secret practice to do. Then you want to increase it to 2 hours the following week. We're going fast speed here. So next week, 2 hours. Then the week after, 3 hours. And you'll be failing. There will be strenuous exercise for the mind, but you're going to be able to do it, you know? And once you're able to do 1 hour, you're going to create the seed of that practice in such a way that even the second hour, you would not want to engage in the negative thinking, right? So that's the beauty of it. It has almost like an instant kind of it almost like a continuous by itself. It becomes a subconscious habit I'm not going to let myself think negatively. Be very cautious when you're surrounded by people who stir up the negativity in you on a regular basis, or somebody. So you have to be on alert. Aha, here is my wife coming. Let me be ready. Or my husband or my partner. I know that I'm going to see something that they're doing, and it's going to slightly irritate me. And no, you're going to say, I'm not being irritated by this. This is just what it is. I don't need any reality different from what it is, but I'm going to adjust myself for the time being in such a way that I'm not trying to negatively think of anything. Yeah, sometimes you may fail for even 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour. It's okay. You come back. You say, I'm going to redo this practice. It's like you have to think of these practices as mental disciplines, and they require the same kind of regularity and intensity, just like you want to build up your muscles. I mean, I'm not into building the muscles exactly how people do it now, but it is okay. And so the fact that it's going to be a little bit challenging should not stop you at all with this. And if you can only do for 1 week, it will greatly change how you see your mind and how how you're going to um, be able to affect many other things. So that's your practice. I have your permission to do it, and you have my permission to do it. And we start tomorrow. And you write it in your diary, 1 hour this time. Don't do it from 4 o'clock to 5 in the morning because you'll be asleep. So that's not a great time to practice. And now I'm going to pull up a couple of diaries that I would like to share. Maybe I did it before, but just for now, I want to be able to uh, do this with you. Okay, so diary 2. Okay, so this is a typical diary that I prefer to, so what I do here is you can see there's a column here which is called total. And what we need to do, 1 second, let me just change the keywords here. 1 second. I switched to this. One moment. Let me just see my settings here. This is good. Okay, good. You can hear me, right? Everybody can hear me? Okay, good. So this is the first thing. So what I do here, you can see I have this column is very important. It's called total, that you're going to summarize everything that is there. So let's say wake up here, and then you put this is your plan, and this is the done practice. Okay. So you should, according to Swami Shivananda's teachings, you must plan everything. You cannot just write, oh, I woke up at 6:15. Then there will be not much of a change or a practice. It is when you plan and when you execute exactly what you were planning, is that you're going to develop the willpower. So you have a little practices here, something, pranayama, asana, anything that you do daily, you can calculate it here. The other things are a little bit more difficult to calculate, which is any ethical practices. This is easy, swadhyaya, memorizations. I have my Sanskrit, I have some kind of health little section, so you can do that. Let me see if I can find another one that is also useful. So now we want to do this one. Again, if you would like me to send you, I'm not a very good with this Excel program, but you can see now comes the week after week right here. And then when you get down to here, you can see you get your totals in here. These totals are transmitted, let's say, in here. And then this way you can monitor your progress up and down. That's kind of what you do. This is the basic idea. Now, I'm going to see if I can find some little resolutions here for you. What is this? Results. One moment. Okay, no, this is not the right thing. I should have prepared this, but anyway. So here's Swami Shivananda. If you'd like to have this, I can send you. He says maintain a daily spiritual diary. At the end of every month, send a copy of it to your spiritual guide who will give you further lessons for your progress. Now, you don't need to get the future lessons, further lessons. You can just send it to somebody, even your friend, for the sake of reference. So you know somebody will maybe just glance at it, may not even read it. Keep a daily mantra notebook and regularly write a page or two of your Ishta mantra. Ishta means desired, or your favorite mantra, guru mantra in that book. Chalk out the routine for daily practice and stick to it at all costs. Distractions, obstacles are many, like that. Make a few resolutions for practice during the new year as shown above, and the resolutions may be crossed out, added, or altered. You can do your own thing. Do not abruptly change your nature. If you fail in any resolutions, then you have to perform some malas of extra of japa. So that's the next step. If you want to kind of stimulate yourself to really become good, you need to do this. It's called the self-correction. The old word that was used was self-punishment, but we don't use this in modern times. So that was one thing. Let me see if I can just find your resolutions of Swami Shivananda. I don't know, maybe I'll remove them. 1 second. And that's it. That's we're gonna be for our day. Yeah, I don't really have them anymore. Interestingly, I thought I kept them. And so the resolutions consist in this. Every day I will wake up at this time. Every day I will do 6 sun salutations. Every day I will do 5 minutes of this, 4 minutes of that. And you write like 10 things like that. That's good enough. Okay, so if you have any questions, we can chat for a few moments. Hari Om Tat Sat.